either have a brain or you have a chip. And it is very important you know the difference between having a brain and using it versus having a chip that's been implanted in your head by the mainstream, by the matrix, by the current social narrative that is going on, whatever it may be at the time you're watching this coaching video. You could be watching this coaching video 100 years from now, and it could be a completely different social narrative than the one we have now, right? But regardless, no matter what, you know what you need to do, son? You need to use your brain, right? That's why God gave you a brain. And not surprisingly, people who are non-believers usually have a chip because they have no God and they have nobody to follow. And I'm not pissing on anybody who's a non-believer. I'm just saying, right? That's what I've observed. Not all, but many, most, right? So you have to ask yourself, do you have a brain or do you have a chip, right? It's funny because as I shoot this coaching video, we are going through the end of the pandemic and been traveling a lot lately, and there's no mask mandate in place anymore, right? People told you, hey, don't need to wear a mask. And even still, I see people driving alone in their cars without a soul in sight wearing a mask. And I have to ask myself, why are you in your car by yourself wearing a mask? And not only that, not one mask, but two masks, okay? Not just one, but two. Why are you sitting in your car by yourself double masking? I have to, I mean, it's just mind-blowing to me. Especially at the end of the pandemic. Maybe I can understand a little bit in the beginning when the mainstream was really fear-mongering and telling people like, hey, mister, you could catch corona by somebody breathing in your direction through the computer. Right? All this stuff. And they were fear-mongering. I mean, I guess I could understand it then, but even then, I mean, there was never any science or data behind it. So I was asking myself why. I mean, in many of my coaching videos, I mean, you saw me, I was walking through casinos, I was not wearing a mask. And by the way, I'm just using this as a small example. So if you wear a mask in your car, that's your decision, right? I just choose not to. But I was walking through casinos. I was traveling to Vegas a lot during the pandemic because Vegas was open and I was trying to escape all of it. And I refused to wear a mask. So I was getting thrown out of a lot of casinos. Fortunately, my girl who was with me at the time, she just took my lead, right? She took my lead, my 19-year-old girl. Just took my lead on it. And this is why I love that about her. I love that about younger women is they will let you lead as a man. Whereas if I was there with a woman my own age, like, you know, can you imagine if she was like my age and she's like in her 40s? I mean, this chick would be like, no, we're wearing our masks. Dr. Fauci said to wear those masks, you know, and we would just be arguing in the middle of the casino, man. But because I got a young, hot girl and she hasn't been brainwashed yet and she could think for herself, she was just like, you're right. There's no data behind this. It's bad for our immune systems. She was like, let's just go until we get kicked out, you know. And even then we would kind of argue and fight it a little bit. But luckily most places were pretty cool just because they know me and I know a lot of the people who work there. They know Cash and Gizmo. So most of them just kind of look the other way. But either way, regardless, I don't want to get too far off the topic here, but I was just using that as a small example, by the way, the thing with the mask. But really, the whole pandemic as a whole, you were able to see who is able to think for themselves and use their brain and just use basic common sense, right? That's what God gave us all. Whether you're a believer or not, God gave you common sense. Jesus loves you, by the way. God gave you common sense. And yes, Jesus loves you. I did say that. Jesus loves you. And he too gave you common sense, right? He gave you the ability to use your brain. That's why he gave you a brain, right? At no point did he say, hey, you know what? In the future, I want my people to start watching CNN and MSNBC and the mainstream news and start taking your marching orders from them, right? When they said there's a curfew, I remember when they said there was a curfew, I laughed my ass off. I'm like, yeah, pull my ass over. I was going out 1, 2 a.m. in the morning because I work from my laptop, right? I'm up late. I'm like, yeah, I dare any of these cops to stop me and ask me what I'm doing. I mean, turned out that my business, believe it or not, my online business was an essential business. Didn't even know that, right? I had a friend of mine tell me that. It's like, no, dude, you're essential. You could be out anyway. I'm like, oh, okay. So I didn't have to be all like rebellious. I had the privilege to be out if I wanted to. So yeah, it was hilarious how most people stayed home during the curfew, and you see the people who are out wandering. I was like, good, right? I mean, again, do you have a brain or a chip? Use your head. Use your common sense. Okay? Use your common sense. Is this about controlling you, or is this about letting you make your own wise decisions? Right? And again, I'm just using the pandemic as a prime example because we're going through that, or we're at the end of it now. But I think a lot of people felt the same way, where you saw this divide between people who could think for themselves and just use common sense and logic versus people who can't think for themselves and have to rely on getting their marching orders from other people and the mainstream news and Hollywood, right? You see Hollywood, they were doing all these like PSAs, like, social distance, mister, 6 feet apart, and all this other stuff. And it's like, yeah, whatever. I don't take my marching orders from anyone but myself and God, Jesus, right? Yeah, I'm not gonna listen to, these so-called experts who all have politicians in their back pockets and are feeding a political party. No, I'm not. I'm just gonna do my own thing. And I remember, like, anybody who was worried about catching the Roni and who was that paranoid about it, like, oh, you're putting my life at risk by not wearing a mask. You're putting my life at risk. I'm just at the grocery store. I'm just here. Don't go out, right? There's Amazon. You could order that stuff. You don't need to go out if you're that paranoid. If I was that paranoid about catching anything, I would just not go out. I would just stay my ass at home. I just wouldn't go out. I'd be like, I don't want to get sick. I'm not going to go out. Simple as that. I'm not going to force other people to abide by, my rules, or, to have to stay home too, just because I'm paranoid of it, right? I'm all for individualism. I am not for collectivism. I hate collectivism, right? I'm all for individuals making their own decisions based on common sense. That's what I want to see. Now, with that said, now that the pandemic started ending, right? I remember the pandemic, they started, at least in California, they started opening it up more, right? So they started opening things up, and everybody on the news, like, as soon as we got a new president, it seemed like everything opened up. I'm not even kidding. That's how I knew this shit was political. As soon as the next president took office, no matter what side you're on, by the way, I don't vote either way, just to be clear. But the second the new president was in the office, all of a sudden they just started removing a lot of these mandates that they had in California. I was in Vegas at the time, and I remember they had these plexiglass panels between gamblers, between slot machines. Literally the same week that we got a new president, I saw like tons of staff removing those things. All of a sudden they removed those plexiglasses. All of a sudden, I remember, like, on CNN, they had a death tracker, like, every single day, showing the death tracker, like, showing how many COVID deaths there were, like, every single day. And then as soon as the other president took office, they removed that. I was like, that's funny, right? I started to notice all these changes. And then they started opening things up. And being in California, once they started to open things up around here, and restaurants were open, and then they started to open bars, right? Things opened very rapidly as soon as we got the new president. That is the time when I got concerned, to be honest with you. That is the time where I was like, whoa. And one of the girls in my dating rotation, okay, not the 19-year-old girl, but one of the girls in my dating rotation, she's in her late 20s. And I remember her going, oh my God, babe, we could go to the bar. We should go to the bar. Everybody's going to be out there this week. And oh, we should go to this restaurant. It just fully opened. And I remember we were driving by these places. I was seeing crowds out there. Nobody was social distancing. and everybody just kept harping about the fact like, oh, cases are way down, oh, it doesn't matter now. And I saw just people acting irresponsible. That is the time when I started being more responsible. That is the time where I started being more cautious, because I saw people just becoming a little too overconfident. But the mainstream was telling everyone, hey, go out, people. We got the shot. Right, I can't say it because I'll get demonetized. Everyone's getting the, right? So it's okay. Everyone go out. Don't worry about wearing your mask outside if you got the, right? All that started happening, and that's when I was like, whoa. Something, no, this doesn't look good. So my girl's like, I'm gonna go. Let's just go. And I'm like, girl, it's not a good idea. I wouldn't suggest going out right now because people are like crowding in to these venues together, and it's looking a little irresponsible. That's all I said, right? You got to think for yourself. And she was like, no, but they're saying that cases are way down. I'm like, who's they? Who is they? And she was like, the CDC. I'm like, oh my God, have you learned anything from me? We actually got in a little tiff about this. So I told her, you know what, if you really want to go, just go without me. Because she was like, you know, I've been locked up all year and I think I deserve to go out. I'm like, then go, girl, go. So she started going out more. Not a whole lot. She only went to a few venues. And then guess what happened? She became the first person that I knew personally that caught it. She caught it. And she had to quarantine for 10 days. And I literally told her, you know, the moment I found out, because she was telling me she was feeling sick after she went to this venue, right? That she wanted me to go with her, and I said no. She was telling me she wasn't feeling well. And I said, you know what? Based on your symptoms, you should get a test. Go get a test. So she goes and gets a test, and she was like, oh shit, you were right. I'm like, what did I tell you? I felt like Robert De Niro in Goodfellas. What did I tell you? What did I tell you? Did I not tell you? What did I tell you, right? I was like literally like that. I was like, what did I tell you? And she was like, I don't know. Oh my gosh, you know. And I'm like, see? Should have listened to me, right? I told you people were acting irresponsible. People, at least in the area that we were, or she wanted to go to, people were just crowding into these venues like there was no tomorrow. Like people were like, it looked like a club. Like people were like shoulder to shoulder. And I'm like, hey, I'm all for individual freedoms and all that, but you know what? Because she tried to peg me with that. She was like, you're the one who's saying we should be individuals. I'm like, I know, girl. I said to be an individual. I didn't say to be stupid. I didn't say to take dumb risks, right? And she was like, well, you know, you were going to Vegas all year when the pandemic, like when it was happening, and you were being irresponsible. I go, no, girl, I was being very responsible, because during that time when it first started and the lockdowns first started, nobody was going to Vegas. It was dead. It was empty. There was nobody out there but really me, Cash, and Gizmo, it seemed like. Nobody was there. Now it's crowded, right? Now there's tons of people out there. So now I'm spending less time there, right? Because technically we do still have a Roni going on. And just the fact that one of the girls in my dating rotation caught it, you know, I mean, I wasn't even really surprised when she did. She was shocked as shit, but I wasn't surprised. I think she was more surprised at the fact that I called it. And she was like, and I kept telling her, you know, every time she tried to hit me with the fact like, oh, they say cases are way down. They say cases are way down. I'm like, who's they? Who is they? Who are you listening to? I'm like, stop taking your marching orders from the mainstream news. They don't give a shit about you. You have to think for yourself, girl. Use your brain. And that's where I came up with tonight's coaching video. You either have a brain or a chip. And I told her, I'm like, use your brain. And I was like, you know what? You're operating right now with somebody who doesn't even have a brain. You're operating with somebody who has a chip, right? And she was like, chip? What do you mean a chip? Right? We totally got into it. So that's where I came up with tonight's coaching video. But either way, now she's good, and now she's getting better. She's getting healthier, and it just goes back to using your brain. Funny thing too is she was talking about getting a shot, right? Getting the shot, and I've been against that from the get-go, just because there have been no long-term studies on it. and I just see too much censorship when it comes to anybody who has an opposing opinion about it. That's when I'm like raising an eyebrow, like, why are you trying to silence so many people? And then all the bribes that came along with it. It's like the mayor of, what's his name, like de Blasio, he came on TV and he was like, oh, look at it was gross, you should look this up on YouTube, it's disgusting. He's like, look at this, I'm eating these french fries. If you get you could have these french fries just like me, this hamburger, it's free. And I'm like, what's going on with all these bribes, right? Oh, if you get you don't have to wear a mask outside. I'm like, what is going on with all these bribes? You know, it's just something in my gut tells me something's wrong. So as I teach you guys, always trust your gut, right? Use your brain, trust your gut. That's what I do. I don't have a chip. I don't listen to what the news is telling me, some person on the street, or anybody else. I trust my gut, right? And not just with this, but with everything. When it comes to business decisions, me leaving my corporate job. Do you know how many people who had a chip in their head were telling me that it was a bad decision? Like, oh, you're gonna go broke. Oh, you're here, just stay here. You're gonna have a pension. You're gonna have, you know, Social Security and all this other stuff. Everybody with a chip was telling me not to do it. But I trusted my gut. I'm like, something's telling me I'm gonna make it. Something's telling me I'm gonna become successful. Something's telling me I'm gonna get rich. You know, I trusted my gut, and what happened? I was right. When you trust your gut, use your brain, use common sense, you will be right a lot more times than you're wrong, right? But when you use the chip, you're gonna be wrong a lot more times than you're right. And they're usually gonna be pretty catastrophic when you're wrong, when you use the chip. At least when you use your gut, you know, if you're wrong, those times you're wrong, it's not gonna be that bad, right? You took a shot, you trusted your gut. It's not gonna be that bad. But when you do win, it's gonna be big. Right? This is why I teach you guys, you gotta trust your gut, you gotta use your brain, don't use the chip. Even when it came to my own dog, Cash, who's laying there right next to me over here in the DeLorean, he was, a few years ago, I told this story before, like he got sick, I brought him to a 24-hour veterinarian, one of the best vets in the area at the time. They still are, but I really am not feeling them anymore. But I brought him there, and they had like 4 doctors with Ivy League college degrees that couldn't figure out what was wrong with my dog Cash, and were advising me to put him to sleep ASAP, end his suffering. Oh, and they give you that speech, right? Like, oh, you know, you've given him a good life. It's time to let him go. It's time to let him go, Matt. And I was like, no, you're all wrong. I'm taking him to another hospital, and I'm gonna get a second opinion, because that is something I teach you guys. Always get a second opinion, especially when it's life-threatening. They're like, no, he's gonna suffocate on the way over there. You're being a bad owner. I had nurses like snubbing me like that as I was like telling them to take him off the oxygen tank, because I'm gonna put him in the car and I'm gonna race to the other veterinarian, which was like 20 minutes away. They're like, you're not gonna make it. I'm like, I'm gonna make it. I'm like, I'm checking him out. Here's my card, I'm paying my bill, and I'm getting my second opinion. They were all pissed off, right? Even some of my own family members came to the hospital, and they were like, it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea. Trust these doctors. They know what they're talking about. And I was like, no, they don't know what they're talking about, right? My gut is telling me something else. Use your brain. Oh, but they're smart. They have these Ivy League college degrees. I'm like, that doesn't matter, right? Some of the like smartest intellectuals out there are the dumbest people on earth. Just because you got this degree doesn't mean anything. So, going against my own family members and the advice of these very, very elite veterinarians at the hospital, I took Cash out of there. As they were like giving me dirty looks, I took him out of there. They thought I was being like inhumane. I took him out of there because I wanted to save his life. I was like, no, me and Cash have plenty of time together. This was in 2017. Like, we have plenty of time together. I rushed him to the other hospital, rushed him over there, and they were like, within 20 minutes, they saved his life. Within 20 minutes, they figure out exactly what was wrong with him, and they saved his life. Why? Because I made that split decision, right? I'm not a doctor, I'm not a vet, I didn't go to school for medicine, I'm a pickup artist, and I knew better than these vets. I knew better. I knew that it wasn't his time to go. I knew that there was something going on with Cash that could be fixed with some antibiotics, right? And it turned out to be something very simple, like an infection on his leg, which I kept telling those doctors, please look at his leg. I believe it's something with his leg. They're like, no, we'll look at the leg later. First, we got to deal with his breathing and his, he's not able to breathe right now. We have to deal with that first. Then we'll look at the leg. I'm like, could it be the leg causing the breathing problem? No, it doesn't work that way. Turned out I was right. I'm just a pickup artist and I knew more, right? This is why I tell you people, use your brain, trust your gut, trust your instincts. Don't listen to doctors just because they have that fancy degree. Especially if you have an animal and they tell you to put your animal to sleep, get a second opinion. Always go to another doctor and get a second opinion. Is it going to cost you more money? Yeah, sorry, right? When I took cash out of that doctor's office, I already paid them like $4,500. I took him to the next doctor and I paid another $4,500. But guess what? They saved his life, right? And then the other hospital ended up refunding me most of it, because even though they never do that, they did that because I was threatening to go to the media, because I didn't want other animals to suffer the same thing. But because I trusted my gut, I used my brain, I don't have a chip, I brought him to the other hospital. Cash is still here today. 4 years later, man. 4 years later, me and Cash are still going on all these adventures. You see him in all of my videos. We're going to Vegas, we're going to Reno, we're going to, all over California. We're taking all these like vacations together. Gizmo loves the fact that he's still here. We're still one happy big family. And this is 4 years later. Everybody was wrong. I was right. Why? Because I don't have a chip. I use my brain. I trust my gut, as I teach you to do. And with that said, I'm going to wrap up here. Until next time, this is Matt Cross from AlphaMaleSecrets signing out here in my DeLorean. Actually just came from the beach with my girl today, and it was a great day at the beach. Lots of waves. Especially if you're a surfer and you like surfing, you would love the beach today. And just decided to bang out some coaching videos because she had to shoot off to work. So I'm doing that for you guys. So I'm gonna wrap up here. As always, don't forget to smash that like button below. Go ahead and smash it right now. Do it for the DeLorean. Smash that like button. Also, hit that notification bell right next to it so that you're notified whenever I release a brand new coaching video here on the YouTube. More importantly, guys, please make sure you subscribe to my channel. Very important you subscribe, guys. It helps me out a ton. It helps me reach other guys just like you. And obviously, YouTube doesn't like to promote coaching videos like mine, so I need your help by subscribing to my channel. And for you guys who want to support my work and all of this high value content that I am teaching you even further, the best way to do that is by becoming a premium subscriber of my premium AlphaMaleSecrets channel, which I am hosting on a private platform away from YouTube. And the reason I'm doing that is to protect my premium content from YouTube in the event they try to shut us down one day. You never know, right? But if they do, guess what? My premium AlphaMaleSecrets channel will still be up and running no matter what. And right now you can join for just $1, okay? So it's only $1 for the entire first month of premium AlphaMaleSecrets coaching lessons from me. So take advantage of it, and it's the absolute best way to support my work and everything I am doing here for you guys. So get signed up right now. All you need to do is click that link below in my description box. It will take you over to my website where you can get signed up right now. And it only costs $1. It takes 2 seconds. So do that now, and I will see you in my next coaching video as I shoot out of here and time travel my ass out of tonight's coaching video. Till next time. Woo! Just in that mill. Drives like a dream.